15 по 18 июня в Ханты-Мансийске состоится 12-й международный IT-форум с участием стран БРИКС и ШОС. Ключевые темы форума – цифровая трансформация, искусственный интеллект и безопасность в цифровой среде. Представители органов власти и ведущих мировых компаний обсудят инновации в ключевых отраслях, роль цифровых технологий в период пандемии, а также цифровой суверенитет и перспективы международного сотрудничества.
Я многократный призер окружного конкурса «Молодой изобретатель игры», также двукратный призер окружного конкурса «Шаг в будущее» и двукратный призер всероссийского этапа форума «Шаг в будущее». Это очень классно, что именно в нашем округе проводится такой форум. Жители нашего округа могут поучаствовать в развитии IT-технологий.
Я участник образовательных программ Центра «Сириус» по различным предметам. Победитель Всероссийской олимпиады школьников по информатике на региональном этапе и участник заключительного этапа. Очень важно держаться в курсе изменений в этой сфере. И поэтому я считаю, что проводимый форум имеет большое значение как для России, так и для мира в целом.
Среди моих достижений можно выделить победы в муниципальных этапах Всероссийской олимпиады школьников по информатике и физике, а также победы в региональных конкурсах, таких как «Большие вызовы» и «Умножай таланты». Также я стал победителем городской олимпиады по программированию, проводимой ЮНИИТом. Я считаю, что IT-форум – это очень важное мероприятие, так как оно позволяет повысить осведомленность населения о новинках в IT-индустрии, а также обсудить важные вопросы, которые позволят повысить уровень IT-технологий в ЮГРе, а также обменяться опытом с другими странами.
Призер региональных олимпиад по информатике и математике. Для меня большая честь стать участницей такого мероприятия, как IT-форум, так как он затрагивает очень важные темы в нашем современном цифровом мире. IT-направление очень важно для нас и для нашего будущего, потому что происходит цифровизация большинства отраслей нашей жизни, и необходимо развивать IT-направление.
Участвую в соревнованиях CTF, участвовал как в региональных, так и в всероссийских соревнованиях, таких как Югра CTF, Урал CTF, Кубок России. Эти соревнования связаны с информационной безопасностью. Кстати, с информационной безопасностью я познакомился на IT-форуме и с тех пор слежу за ним. Мне кажется, что на этом IT-форуме можно узнать много чего интересного, поговорить с многими профессионалами и прокачать себя.
Хожу в технопарк и конструирую много разных роботов. 2 года назад я участвовал в конкурсе «Молодой изобретатель игры» и занял 2-е место с умной инвалидной коляской. В этой коляске очень много всяких датчиков. Например, ультразвуковой датчик, который не допускает столкновений и прочих аварий. Я считаю, что IT-форум – это очень важное мероприятие, потому что с помощью него мы узнаем новые технологии, новых роботов. И чтобы не стоять на месте, мы продвигаемся и идем в будущее.
Являюсь многократным призером всероссийских соревнований РАП-фест в номинации «ВЕКС». Затем являюсь победителем и призером форума «Шаг в будущее», международного форума «Шаг в будущее» и выставки «Шаг в будущее». IT-форум проходит в этот раз в Югре, и это, я считаю, очень хорошо, потому что IT – это такая сфера, где нужно постоянно повышать свою квалификацию, потому что технологии не стоят на месте. Поэтому это отличный способ для молодых специалистов узнать что-то новое и поделиться своим опытом.
Позвольте представить участников нашей пленарной дискуссии. Губернатор Ханты-Мансийского автономного округа Югры Наталья Комарова. Заместитель министра цифрового развития, связи и массовых коммуникаций Российской Федерации Александр Шойтов. Руководитель аналитического центра при правительстве Российской Федерации Константин Калинин. Чрезвычайный и полномочный посол
extraordinary
Республики
and
Никарагуа в Российской
plenipotentiary
Федерации госпожа
ambassador
Альба
of the Republic of
Асусена
Nicaragua
Торрес
to
Мекия.
the Russian Federation, Ms. Alba
Чрезвычайный
Torres.
полномочный посол
Extraordinary and
Республики
plenipotentiary
Сьерра-Леоне в
ambassador of
Российской
the Republic
Федерации
of Sierra
господин
Leone to the
Мохаммед
Russian Federation, Mr.
Янгала.
Mohammed Yangala.
Генеральный секретарь Ассамблеи
Secretary
народов
General
Евразии
of
Андрей
Eurasian
Белянинов
People's Assembly, Andrei Belyaninov.
и генеральный
And
директор
Director
лаборатории
General of
Касперского
Kaspersky Laboratory,
Евгений
Evgeny
Касперский.
Kaspersky.
А также хотел бы
I would
представить
also like
участников
to introduce
дипломатического
the
корпуса, которые
participants of our
присутствуют сегодня у нас в зале,
diplomatic
являются
corps,
участниками
which is here with us today.
дискуссий. Чрезвычайный
And this is
полномочный
extraordinary
посол
and
Гренады в
plenipotentiary
Российской
ambassador of
Федерации
Grenada
Олег
to the
Фиров.
Russian Federation, Oleg
Чрезвычайный
Firov,
полномочный посол
extraordinary and
Доминиканской Республики
plenipotentiary
в Российской
ambassador of the
Федерации
Republic of
Ханс
Dominicana to the Russian Federation,
Даненберг-Кастельянос.
Hans Dannenberg-Castellanos.
Чрезвычайный полномочный посол Республики Уганда в
Extraordinary and
Российской
plenipotentiary
Федерации
ambassador of the
Джонсон
Republic of Uganda to the Russian
Агара
Federation, Johnson Polo.
экс-посол Республики Бенин в
Former
Российской Федерации,
ambassador of the Republic of Benin to the
комиссар по
Russian Federation,
международным
High
отношениям
Commissioner of
Евразийской
International
организации
Relations of
экономического сотрудничества
Eurasian
Габриэль
Economic
Качофа,
Cooperation Organization, Gabriel Kochofa,
генеральный консул Республики
Consul
Таджикистан
General
в
of the Republic
Екатеринбурге
of Tajikistan in Yekaterinburg,
Саидзада,
Zafar Saidzada,
второй секретарь посольства
Second
Республики
Secretary of
Индии
the
в Российской
Embassy of the
Федерации
Republic of India to the
Шанкар
Russian
Ананд,
Federation, Shankar Anand,
советник посольства Киргизской Республики в
advisor
Российской
to
Федерации, руководитель канцелярии
ambassador of the
посольства в
Kyrgyz
городе
Republic to the
Сургуте
Russian
Улан
Federation and
Ашимов
head of Surgut Office, Ulan
и
Ashimov,
почетный консул
and
Республики
honorary
Казахстан в
consul of
городе
the Republic
Сургуте
of Kazakhstan
Арасхан
in Surgut,
Калиев.
Rashan Kaliyev.
Ну что ж, и слово для
I would like to
открытия
give the
12-го
floor
международного
to open
IT-форума
the
хочу
12th International
передать
IT
Наталье
Forum
Комаровой.
to
Прошу
Natalia
вас.
Komarova. You're welcome. Great that the microphones were working poorly, and I can use this opportunity to greet you again, dear forum guests and participants. Let me use this floor to start our discussion. And on behalf of all Yugra residents, I would like to pay my respect to you, my dear friends and colleagues. The forum has gone beyond BRICS and SCO countries. We have representatives of 70 countries from all over the continent, and we are discussing the issues of digital agenda with leading experts. Let me quote a recent study by the Stanford University. The year 2020 has become a turning point in artificial intelligence development. Investments in AI all over the world reached almost 68 million US dollars. And another study by Arca Invest shows that artificial intelligence technologies have become like a digital pill for the recovery of the technology during the pandemic. And internet gave 13 trillion US dollars of market capitalization to companies involved in that, and AI contributed 2 trillion, but next year it's going to contribute 30 trillion US dollars. And our contemporary society combines two trends. On the one hand, digital creates opportunities for countries and ethnic groups to preserve their cultures and languages, the so-called intangible heritage. On the other hand, all information events are getting informatized, and there is a single news background. It's not divided by unique cultures and nations. Under such conditions, it's important to create the conditions for preserving and developing the personality, the identity, and developing values and morals, protecting from cyber threats. Nowadays, the role of knowledge is growing because of the scientific and technological revolution. Basically, information resources of the society are now turning into real resources of social and economic development. A market of information and knowledge is growing and developing. These factors contribute to our economic development. Importantly, BRICS and SCO countries are at the forefront of this activity. The same study shows that Brazil, India, South Africa are among top 5 countries by hiring AI experts. China
has more scientific quotations than the US. So we are welcoming our participants, and we are open to joint projects. And this International IT Forum is a notable event in the life of IT community, and every big event should have a face. So we suggest turning our attention to the young generation. These are young, progressive people who represent the future. Contemporary youth is early getting involved in IT technologies and online communication. And we need to give young people an opportunity for development and see their desire for development and support it. They should be supported by any government, because the source of digital economy and economy of knowledge and HR and talent pool in any community and any country, these resources are children. So meet the new faces of our forum. And these are young UGRA residents who won and participated in different digital competitions, best graduates of Yandex, I assume. The future is theirs, and starting from next year, we are going to hold Junior IT Forum within our venue. So welcome. Thanks a lot. Thanks, Ms. Komarova, and we continue. We have received several greetings to forum participants, specifically one from Deputy Chair of the Government of the Russian Federation, by Dmitry Chernyshenko. I would like to ask Konstantin Kalinin to read it. Thank you. Good morning, everyone. I'm happy to see you. I have this honorable mission today to read the greeting from the government of the Russian Federation. Dear colleagues, dear Russian and foreign friends, on behalf of the government of the Russian Federation and on my own behalf, I would like to greet all guests and participants of the 12th International IT Forum, attended by BRICS and SCO countries. Over the years of this forum, we have grown accustomed to being welcomed by this hospitable Khanty-Mansiysk city. It's a traditional meeting place for everyone involved in digital technologies in the public and private sector. It's a venue for discussions, for sharing useful experience, discussing ideas and development of digital technology. In July 2020, President of the Russian Federation said that the digital transformation was one of the national goals among the key values, like preserving the population and protecting the safety and well-being of citizens, as well, and successful entrepreneurship and work. This determines the development of our countries, and it serves as the basis for developing digital companies, and improving digital technologies, and developing people's digital skills. Last year, the coronavirus pandemic took its toll, but still we solved many issues concerning online interaction between the person and the government, the state. And this task was solved very efficiently and within the shortest possible time. 4 days of fruitful and productive work await you. We will discuss different issues of developing digital development of industries and different sectors, artificial intelligence development, information security, and international IT cooperation. I'd like to wish all forum guests and participants fruitful work, interesting discussion, new breakthrough projects, and of course, sound health. Respectfully, Deputy Chair of the Government, Dmitry Chernyshev. Thank you, Konstantin. We have also received a greeting from the Minister of Foreign Affairs of the Russian Federation, Sergei Lavrov, and I'd like to invite Deputy Director of International Information Security Department of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of the Russian Federation, Mr. Dmitry Bukin. Good afternoon. I'd like to welcome organizers and participants of the 12th International IT Forum in Khanty-Mansiysk. The impact of digital technologies on the scientific progress and the development of international economy and contemporary society as a general is growing rapidly. Extensive use of ICT improves people's life quality. However, challenges are also growing more numerous, and they can even instigate military conflicts. Cyber crime damages the critical infrastructure of public entities and infrastructure, and platforms like internet and social media and messengers are getting manipulated to put pressure on the society and the government, which threatens people's fundamental rights. So we are going to develop collective measures of ensuring information security to overcome these challenges, and we need to achieve universal agreements within the United Nations to achieve that. We also need to use the potential of the expert community and business circles. A useful contribution to collective efforts is made by the IT Forum in Khanty-Mansiysk, which is a respected venue for discussing ICT issues. And its success is guaranteed by respected experts from Russia and other countries, including BRICS and SCO countries, that have frequently confirmed their shared approaches to foreign affairs. I'm sure that your meeting will be fruitful and productive and will help us share useful practices and establish contacts, do networking, and approach collective initiatives. I wish you great work and all the best. Sergey Lavrov. Thank you very much. Also, we have a video greeting. Of course, it's inevitable in our new post-COVID reality by Jean Chanhoy, ambassador of the...
Guarantee that the equipment can't fail you, but we'll get back to that. Oh, okay, it's working. First of all, allow me on behalf of the Embassy of the People's Republic of China in Russia to sincerely thank the governor of the autonomous Khanty-Mansiysk Autonomous Okrug, Natalia Komarova, for the invitation and the warm welcoming words and the opening of the 12th International IT Forum with the participation of BRICS and SCO countries. This year, SCO celebrates its 20th anniversary and BRICS is celebrating its 12th anniversary. This forum is an important platform for exchange and cooperation between BRICS and SCO countries in information technologies. The participants of today's forum represent industrial, university, and research institutions working in IT in different countries. And this is a proof of gradual development of cooperation between BRICS and SCO countries in research, technical, economic, and education. BRICS and SCO countries complement each other in technologies, in intellectual markets, in capital, and in areas of other innovation resources. A close cooperation in information technologies opens an important path, and it is a firm foundation to further develop and consolidate the relationships between our countries. The previous year has been extraordinary. The coronavirus pandemic has had certain negative impact on social and economic development across the world. On the other hand, it sped up the development of innovative information technologies such as artificial intelligence, big data, cloud computation, and distance and telemedicine. As part of the China and Russia year of innovative development, the China and Russia development mutually beneficial cooperation in biotechnologies, and that includes laboratory testing of coronavirus, COVID-19, and development of a vaccine. which plays an important role in stepping up the cooperation between our countries. We are convinced that under the strategic leadership of the leaders of our states, the relationship between our countries will develop and they will reach a qualitatively new level. And the cooperation between BRICS and SCO countries in information technologies will achieve new success, and it will play the role of a driver of a global economy. In conclusion, I would like to wish you a successful 12th International IT Forum with the participation of BRICS and SCO countries. And we have words of welcome from the Ambassador Plenipotentiary of the representative plenipotentiary representative of the Russian President Yakushev, and from Kazakhstan, Yemer Yashkibayev, and the General Secretary of the Collective Security Treaty Organization XII, and Chamber of Commerce and Industry of the Russian Federation. So I believe it is time now for us to start our plenary discussion, our plenary conversation. Natalia Vladimirovna, I would like to start with you, and I would like to use the occasion and thank you for the invitation to Khanty-Mansiysk. And during St. Petersburg Economic Forum, you've invited us, and I haven't been here for about 10 years maybe, and really enjoyed walking in Khanty-Mansiysk yesterday. I've really enjoyed it. And I would like to briefly go back to St. Petersburg Economic Forum, which had a very busy agenda. A lot of questions, a lot of issues were discussed, and two questions were key ones. Number one is post-COVID reality. For some, it is truly a new reality, a lot of changes, and they've assessed digitization of everything. First of all, it's like a tool to counteract a pandemic in acute phase, and as a tool of post-pandemic recovery. Well, unfortunately, we haven't killed COVID completely, but I hope when we meet next year, we'll beat it finally. And this is what was discussed. The federal agenda, regional agenda was discussed less. I would like to ask you, digital tools, digital methods of structuring the economy and government process, how did these digital tools help the regions to go through the acute phase, and how do digital tools help you recover? And what digital tools are most in demand for business and the population? Partially, you've mentioned that in your opening address, but still. Thank you for the question. You are absolutely right, and I mean, the experts are right when they say about the increase in the role of digital technologies in government and state administration. And during pandemic, what I would like to start with is that among the population, there is an increase in oil services. Oh, sorry, that's a slip of the tongue. In digital services. Yes, that was a good slip of the tongue. I mean, well, I couldn't have said it wrong, right? So there was an increase among population for services, digital services, and now government and municipal services are available for the citizens of Yugra in digital form, and they are 165 today. In 2020, more than 56.2 digital requests were received, and most of them, and going back to the emphasis you've made about what is most popular, so more than 80%, that's education, and which is quite logical. During 2020, the web page state services got 280,000 new users. Another trend, which I will mention, is that the regions are supporting the trend to implement intellectual assistance for efficient interaction between the authorities and the population. And again, going back to St. Petersburg Economic Forum, I would like to remind that for the first time, the events of the forum were commented by AI, Athena, artificial intelligence software Athena. And for us, it's Vika, the neural network, the intellectual neuronal network that's popular. And daily, this digital service, Viki, is used by more than 5,000 citizens of Yugra, and other neuronal network has services in education, in registration of marriages, and other changes of state status or birth certificates. These are the services which are most popular, and that's why we digitize them. For entrepreneurs, there is information about governmental support, which is also most popular request from the point of view of the dialogue between the public and services entrepreneurs. Medical services, that's informing about the coronavirus infection, searching for the right hospital, and we're training the system, Vika, how to help people register for the appointment with a doctor. This is, again, another popular request. You can register for a doctor's appointment in a digital form, but if there is no spare window, then the system rejects your request. But in our case, we train the neuronal network so that the number of windows is not limited. It corresponds to the number of requests. We gradually transition to rendering services without the officials being involved. And me, for example, as a governor, I fully endorse this area and believe it is absolutely important to make sure that the relationship between the citizens and the municipalities are to make sure that these relationships are free from bureaucracy, and that they exist at a civil level and they exist at the level of better understanding, so that in automatic mode a number of services are accessible without the involvement of a government official. And it is done through digital services. We've received 35,000 requests during 2020, and the decisions on those requests were made in automatic mode. That's 98% of the total number of requests which were sent to the portal using the services, the digital services which we implemented and which do not require the involvement of a state official. Another 25 services are being transferred into this digital format this year, and this is the area which we will definitely develop, and this will cover the entire spectrum of government and municipal services. Thank you, Natalia Vladimirovna. It looks like you are leaving state officials unemployed. I mean, 98%. This is our dream. Yes, there is a dream. Is it a dream or an objective? It is a dream. Vladislav Mikhailovich, I'd like to ask you, Natalia Vladimirovna has mentioned a steep increase. Alexander Mikhailovich and Natalia Vladimirovna mentioned an explosive growth of interest among the population to the digital services. And I've checked last year, the ministry showed that the number of requests from the citizens grew by 50% at the state services portal. 230 million services were rendered digitally. So what I wonder is how have you been able to scale this whole story through such a short period of time? And of course, the questions of security, and we'll hear about it later on. And digital security is becoming increasingly important. So what does the state, the government, does to ensure stability of these processes and their reliability and security? Because the number of cyber incidents is increasing rapidly as well. Yes, good day, dear colleagues. Thank you for this question. In general, state services and transitioning them into digital format is the priority task of the ministry, and it's our focus, and we invest a lot of effort and resources into it, and that's why we've achieved a significant progress here. Talking about security, I would say we are at the breaking point. because in our country there's a great number of information systems. They're built on different principles. Were created in different periods of time, and we are approaching the fourth stage of digital economy, and we are moving at rapid pace there, and that includes connection of digital state services, public services, and that involves difficulties because you need to ensure security across the landscape of the entire Russian Federation. And this breaking point is due to the fact that we will need to transition to the unified digital platform at the level of state. And on the one hand, we'll need to use state-of-the-art digital technologies because this is the only way for us to be ahead of the world. On the other hand, these technologies, they need to be trusted and they need to be they need to be secure. Thank you. Alexander Mikhailovich, and several years ago, a lot was said about this concept of government, the state being the platform. So this is where we are migrating towards, right? The unified IT platform, services platform, this is our future, right? Yes. This is the short-term future. All right, I will not I'll be asking when, but maybe we'll come back to that. Alexander Mikhailovich, I know that analytical center is working efficiently at the federal level, and more than once I've seen that, but there are also partnership programs with the regions. How do you see the way the pandemic has changed this work? How does the role of digital communication changes? How is it changing when we talk about working with the government authorities at different levels, federal, regional, municipal levels, etc.? Thank you very much. Well, the events related with pandemic, they've shown how important digital technologies are. If the standard or habitual business processes change drastically, I'm sure everyone has experienced that. Pandemic, it's like a litmus test. It has identified the degree of digital preparedness of a country, and it boosted the development of digital environment. And digital transformation has become a rescue boat for certain traditional sectors of economy, which before worked offline. And we are implementing digital initiative actively in those spheres of activity which were using digital technologies, but they were not leaders in that area. And I'm talking about education. We have felt that almost all working online now. Healthcare, trade, due to quarantine measures, there's increased interest to digital solutions which allow to minimize the presence of a human at operating and production sites. We're now using conference calls, and we use different services which help you control and monitor the operation of the equipment remotely. Decision-making support systems and IT security solutions. There are certain figures, and I represent an analytical center, so I'll share some statistics. Certain results of limitations due to COVID in 2020. The volume of mobile internet traffic increased 10 to 30%, depending on the regions, 50 to 58%. The users of RUNET started paying 50 to 58% more attention to education. As following 2020, the number of online purchases grew 3 times, and the total turnover of online trade grew almost 2.5 times, comparing with the similar period in 2019. The share of internet transactions in the total volume of acquiring grew from 32 to 67%, so it's a more than 2-fold increase. We have started digitizing very actively. I cannot say whether it's good or bad, but I think everything that's been done for our people is good. It's for the better. The experience of IT sphere accumulated in Russia during the previous several years have made it possible for us to promptly create efficient solutions to counter the pandemic. In total, we've created more than 80 practices in different areas, healthcare in particular, research for COVID, medications, etc. Although there are objective difficulties, despite the fact that digitization today is rapidly developing. And however, and if the government and the big business, big companies are actively investing in innovation, then small business is experiencing certain problems. And that's what our statistics says.
Well, something like that. Well, thank you. It's actually clear. I also wanted to involve you into the conversation. Our colleagues are naming these numbers, multiple times growth of popularity of neural networks and services at different levels. And over the past half year, we've twice discussed the cybersecurity, but every time something new would come up. So what changed over the past year in terms of cybersecurity? Which elements are the most vulnerable? Because the number of cyber incidents have been growing also by multiple times. So what do we need to do at all levels to keep it stable, keep it operable? Of course, the government is taking serious measures, but what can we do as citizens, as businessmen, as people responsible for their future? Where to run? Tell us, please. Let me start from the last question. What can you do? You should follow the best recommendations of professionals. Follow recommendations by best professionals. I suppose that's active sales. Yes, and you are happy to have such experts. And speaking seriously, indeed, a lot has been said about how the digital technologies are invading our life and penetrating it, and you can actually see it quite well from here, from the Presidium, because you can see how many people are listening to what we are saying and how many people are looking into their cell phones. That's at the individual level. Speaking about education, yes, that past year, the education went online by more than a half. Public services are rapidly developing online because it has become available due to new technologies and so on and so forth. Speaking about, and that was a good comment, that enterprise systems want to work remotely, so it's obvious. And I visited an industrial company, and I've seen it for the first time with my own eyes when deep underground at minus 200 reference point, a drilling, there was drilling going on while the drillers were sitting on the ground in their nice office. Those were big guys, hard-looking guys, and they were just controlling the drilling with their joysticks, so with controllers. So the world is going in that direction and is going to get more and more interesting. And of course, safety issues and security issues are becoming more and more important, especially in our challenging coronavirus times, because the situation has really changed. People started traveling less and doing more things online. Many companies let their employees work from homes, but they were not able to provide the proper security level, because of course not all companies have this capability. And unfortunately, we've been registering that cyber criminals are using it as additional opportunities. So last April, we recorded a surge in hacker activity, a surge of 20-25%. So we could just see that those hackers, they were always working remotely, but now they had more time and more opportunities to attack and cause harm, different types of harm to their victims. Of course, security issues are growing more and more acute. And in fact, those hackers and cyber criminals, there are hundreds and thousands of them online, and they are generating more and more things. And we keep collecting lots of suspicious files, and 300-400,000 per day are identified by us as new types of malicious files. So every day, 300-400,000 malicious files emerge that were just created. So the number of hackers, of cyber criminals, I suppose, is also measured in hundreds of thousands. Technically, we are capable of dealing with it. We have automatic systems of sorting these incoming files, and we can process all that automatically. We can issue updates and protect you. But the problem is actually different. Those hundreds of thousands of hackers are not standing still. They are growing more. They are growing smarter and more professional. They are inventing new types of attacks, and gradually, which is the most unpleasant thing, they are starting to coordinate and unite into cyber bands, and they can attack not just a small business online. They are capable of attacking a large enterprise that has a proper cybersecurity system. So when they keep hitting the same victim, sooner or later they are going to penetrate the security. And we can see this shift from attacking office applications, office systems, to industrial enterprise systems, Internet of Things, which is quite troubling. So when we are speaking about critical infrastructure and industrial infrastructure, the concept of security stops working. We need to achieve immunity, not security. So, of course, we can discuss now what is immunity and what is security. Security is a face mask, and immunity is a vaccine shot. So that's a huge difference. And we are ready to help industrial enterprises and infrastructure facilities to build the industrial systems and infrastructure in such a way as to create this immunity. It's called security by design. There is an exhibition in the exhibition center not far away from here, where you can look at our systems that assure industrial immunity, not just security. Our systems that help you get public services in a completely protected way. These systems use blockchain technology to power the active citizen platform. So all sorts of public services that must be secure by definition, by default. They must be protected from the very beginning in such a way as not to even need an antivirus. So yes, we are creating systems that destroy our key business, antivirus. So yes, that can happen too. Thank you. Thanks a lot. It just seems to me that you are not going to be out of work. You're not going to lose a job. I suppose we can now start discussing this, that at this acute time of corona crisis, when the number of cyber incidents grew, so what were the most popular targets for hackers? So public services or what? Where were the key vulnerabilities? Public services, yes. These attacks were numerous. So public services were like the Gosuslugi site was like an entry point. Well, first of all, citizens are the victims of cybercrime. There are two ways here. One is creating a completely protected system. Only I'd like to comment on this definition, cyber immunity, because I am also president of Cryptography Academy, and recently they've decided that it's security of information infrastructure as different from information security. So if we're talking about immunity, if we compare it to healthcare, where we have this immune system to protect from viruses, where we have lymphocytes and macrophages, and actually skin is what protects us from viruses. Human skin protects us, which means it's design of the system or your skeleton. That's what protects you. And immunity, your immune system just responds to certain incidents. So I understand your question. I just wanted to comment on this definition. Yes, I suggest discussing technical issues later on. Yes, I'm sorry, I will not dwell on that any longer. So the first way is building such protected systems, and the second way is actually dealing with people and their literacy. Of course, it's always a problem. Most doctors say that they are not actually sure how the immunity works. Okay, thanks a lot. And now, Madam Ambassador, I'd like to ask you. So we have arranged this bilateral cooperation. So what's happening in the information field? What prospects do you see? So everything that has been just discussed here, what's the situation in your country? First of all, I'd like to thank you for the invitation. I'm very happy to be here. I would like to thank you for the wonderful organization. And I welcome your city. And I'd like to say hello from our country, from Nicaragua. So I arrived here to establish the relations, and it's a bit difficult for me to say all that in Russian, so I suppose we will have more time later on today where we are going to discuss that. If it's more comfortable for you to speak English, please do. It's comfortable for me to speak Spanish. That's my native language. Well, we'll see what we can do about that. Okay, I'd like to ask you now then, Alexander Yuryevich. We are having some technical troubles with the sound today. Well, I hope it's going to be the least of our troubles. I can see you've made plenty of notes. So what's important? So what is your country doing? What initiatives are you implementing with some countries in terms of international communication and international projects? Which problems do you think are the most critical? Well, first of all, I'd like to say thank you for inviting us to this forum. And I'd like to thank the governor. We signed an agreement yesterday setting the framework of our interaction and cooperation. But I think that the level of professionals gathered here is so high that we can actually work on the future. I heard about Mr. Kaspersky in 1991 when Kaspersky lab was installed on my computer. So this person knew what he was going to do in 2021, back 30 years ago. And now we are becoming aware of our tasks of creating a Eurasian IT platform, because we can see there is a technological dependency. Companies that transnational instead of national determine whom to give what information and how much of that. So we have not a problem but a task. We want at least 100 people or several hundred people or maybe even several thousand people to communicate in an online conference, people from different countries. So we are the Eurasian People's Assembly, and we have a very close interaction with the African continent now. We are starting to establish such interaction, and the 20th century geography is no longer correct, because we are dealing with Africa just as much as with Asian countries. Actually, it's a pity that European countries are not present in this forum. I think it's their loss. It would be very useful for them to be present here, because these tasks are shared. So if several hundred or several thousand people are communicating at the same time, one of the key tasks is the work of interpretation. A lot of information is lost in translation. Sometimes it even makes no sense to hold certain events with poor translation. So dear IT professionals, you've created all possible languages and some translators, but now let's think how we can adapt it to the contemporary circumstances, because everyone who is working online, it's very important for us. For all of us. Now people start asking what's going to happen after the pandemic. Well, nothing. Pandemic is yesterday. We are already living in the new now, in the new social format of the earth. People are living in a different way. It's an issue of communication, of live communication. I think it's very important. So we have created a Department of Happiness. And people are working in this department are happy by definition. But we want it to happen as a series of discussions. We are holding marathons. We are reading and singing in national languages. We are holding economic conferences. But how can we communicate in such a way as not to lose this vital tissue, this essence of communication? So I think we need to discontinue this technological dependency. And I have this bold idea. So Internet has been around for many years, and but why can't we create a Eurasian platform? Why do we have to use certain hosting? Why can't we issue those hostings ourselves? Why do we have to be dependent on the political will of some unjust politicians or businessmen? Maybe I'm not saying very nice things, but another task we are all facing is what's going to happen to our education? Today, our respected governor was talking about children. So what are they going to be? They are no longer happy because their vacations are too long. Children miss each other. But what if it turns into a habit? What if children only get information from their gadgets? And our assembly has this big program on preserving the memory. 75 years after the end of the war, and soon we are going to celebrate to observe this 80th anniversary from the start of the Second World War. But we're not teaching our children. Our children to be patriotic. We believe that our children will make their own choices, but unless we force them, they're not going to choose that, because they don't know what to choose from all that information. And I have recently been to a city, and the city's best schools have this key sculptor, Ernst Neizvestny, and they know about Petrarch from Ernst Neizvestny. And they are quoting Ernst Neizvestny, who said that he always wanted to go to America, and America likes to go to war with us. And I said, I don't like Ernst Neizvestny because he is a traitor. Yes, he made a memorial, a statue of Nikita Khrushchev, which is quite impressive, but what are the benchmarks our children are going to follow? And this is actually relevant for all Eurasian countries, and that's the excess of professionals with higher education and a huge lack of blue-collar workers, blue-collar professionals. And that refers not only to Russia, it's also a problem in Asia and across Eurasia. So the educational programs we are preparing, we are developing, how relevant are they? After all, these forums shape needs, and our wonderful IT professionals can solve any problem in this in the digital code soon, as long as this task is correctly articulated in the binary code. So maybe it's not a popular problem, but still, Russia has been trying to stop using dollars for many years. European Bank of Development solved this problem a few years ago. They are using payment systems without dollars, without euros, without SWIFT codes. It's actually not that complicated. So let's think how we can combine these efforts. I'm not saying that we need to be very corporate. I think we need to be united, but we need to be also independent from technologies and political decisions. After all, that's why we created our Department of Happiness. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Andrei Yurievich. Well, since we have started talking about the state, the patriotism, great economic autonomy, such a thing is digital sovereignty. How much do we need it? If somebody is interested in this question, is it a question to me? Yes, I think it is a logical continuation of what you've said, because this digital sovereignty has been discussed a lot recently. I think digital sovereignty is like artificial intelligence. It can take decades to try to accomplish this objective, and still you can fail. In 1991, I heard about Kaspersky's lab, and artificial intelligence start with the lab and not the intelligence. Well, talking about digitization, it belongs to the world. How can you fence yourself away from what's coming to you as a digital avalanche? I think it's a made-up thing. Digital sovereignty, it's something that non-existent. Okay, I'll come back to it a bit later, because I think on the one hand, Internet erased the borders. On the other hand, the number of walls which are being built in the Internet is just colossal. Mr. Ambassador, Mr. Ningava, I would like to ask you to share your experience of digitization in the Republic and experience of cooperation in digitization with Russia. What do you think is most interesting in this area?
One, Your Excellency, Madam Governor, colleagues, excellencies from other countries, panelists, mine katelos будет на русском, но позволите мне на английском говорить, пожалуйста. Поскольку есть несколько технических вопросов.
I do speak some Russian, but I would like to continue in English, because there are some technical issues which I am not very good at speaking Russian.
Bring you greetings from the President, the government, and the people of Sierra Leone, to the people of Russia, but particularly to this beautiful part of Russia, Khanty-Mansisk. This is my second time in Khanty-Mansisk, and the last time I was here, I promised the governor that if I'm invited, I will come again. And I said to the governor, you have really taken some big strides. I told the governor, your part of Russia is really beautiful and you are doing a great job. And I predicted to the governor that today we are standing here in a foyer. That was the last time when it was organized. But the next time you will be in a very massive hall with many people. And I think I was right. And I think had it not been for the pandemic, we could have had this hall overflowing. Because this part of Russia is just a beautiful place to be. Thank you for welcoming me again. Moving on swiftly to your question, we cannot live today without digitization. The world is so dependent on digitization that this meeting is so apt to what is happening across the world. And relationship between countries has improved vastly because of digitization. You asked me about the relationship between Sierra Leone and then Russia in the area of digitization. There's one small thing I will say, because I studied in the former Soviet Union, and then after the collapse of the Soviet Union, less than 28 years, the massive strides that Russia has taken is simply miraculous. Simply miraculous. I remember when I was here as a student, our teacher was teaching us electronic Vyshishilitelny machine, EVM. And the lecturer used to draw the computer on the board, on the whiteboard, without the computer. We didn't have the computers. They were drawing them on the board. So we were always asking, where are the computers? We are just seeing the sketches on the board. But imagine after 28 years, what has happened in Russia. Moving forward, also, when we used to make phone calls to Sierra Leone, we used to go to the post office and we would make some long lines waiting to call. Today, you don't need to go to the post office. You only need to lie down in your bed and you have a very small thing in your hand called mobile phone, and you can call anywhere in the world, including my village in Sierra Leone. But across this panel, I have heard so many things that is very interesting. Few things have been mentioned by the experts. That is development of digitization. There's the issue of trust, and there's the issue of crime. In digitization, the experts will agree with me, there is a fight, if I can say it in Russian, borba, between the bad guys and the good guys. The good guys are always developing new programs, trying to defend the state, trying to defend public services. And the bad guys are always there trying to unravel them, undo them. That is the fight. But the importance of such a meeting is such that most of all will benefit from it. And this tells us, pandemic or no pandemic, human contact is the most appropriate. We can develop all platforms, we can develop all digitization, we can do anything that we want to do, but nothing beats the human contact. Imagine, you probably, if I'm not mistaken, there was a competition between Garry Kasparov and Big Blue, and then Big Blue won, okay? But what they forgot to tell us is that Big Blue was made by man. Big Blue did not make himself. It was made by man. So man is always going to be powerful against digitization, because we are the inventors. We invent what digitization is. And I want to so far at this point end that Africa is a very young continent. It's the oldest and youngest continent. The oldest because it's a cradle of mankind. It's the youngest because it has the most young people in the world. That is a market that the Russian digitization needs to explore. And before people started doing money transfer in Europe and other places, Africa was already doing money transfer. In fact, we were laughed at in some part of Africa. We were doing mobile money transfer before it happened in the West. Now today, everybody is doing digital money transfer. Welcome to the world of digitization. And I will conclude by making reference to what the governor said. The future of the world lies with our youths, but we must ensure that our youths are not abused through digitization and that they do not abuse digitization. Thank you.
Спасибо, господин.
Thank you, Mr. Ambassador, and thank you particularly for this emotional component. And I want to share your optimism that human will always be ahead of what human creates in the context of artificial intelligence as well. So, Konstantin Mikhailovich, I would like to ask you, on the basis of the analytical center and the expert center, because this is what the National Initiative on AI, do you share the optimism expressed by Mr. Ambassador? And where do you see the most promising outlook for the application of what we call artificial intelligence? I guess for now we're talking about weak artificial intelligence. Where do you see it, especially at the regional level? If we go into the practical plane, I understand the huge companies like Sberbank, they use it successfully, but in the regions they also use AI. So where is it most promising? All right, a lot has been talked about AI, and there are more questions than answers. It is true that we've created the Competence Center, Artificial Intelligence Competence Center, as part of the Digital Economy project. There is a separate federal project dedicated to artificial intelligence. We're just finding ground under our feet. We're just shaping up. But it is true that developing AI is an end-to-end process for all IT technologies today. It is difficult to imagine a sphere where this technology couldn't be used. I mean, these are medical systems and IT security, industrial security, practically everywhere. And from the calculations that we have, the demand in the economy sectors for AI during the period of 2020 to 2024 can grow threefold. And money-wise, that's 73 to 173 billion rubles. So there is a question of finance, of course, and most share will be also provided. A lot of it will be covered by industry, transport, energy, healthcare. Talking about AI in government authorities, business, everyday life, I would say that we are using dialogue system, chat blocks, question-answer systems, computer vision, cognitive computation, next generation, face recognition system, what we've been hearing about. And I would like to say that our Russian developers are quite confident in all spheres of development of artificial intelligence. And yes, one more thing regarding the competency center. I would like to say a couple of words here. Then several notes I've made. The competency center is responsible for the integrated implementation of the federal project, and also we're responsible for strategic initiatives. This is the ethics code of implementation of AI and shaping up the business index, business preparedness index to implement AI. Implementation AI International, and a number of other programs facilitating the integrated development of AI in Russia. Thank you. Thank you very much. Evgeny Vladimirovich, what do you think about the AI technologies? Andrei Yurievich is quite right. I mean, this is the topic that's been discussed for many years. A lot of research has been done since the previous century. We've been talking about it for 40 years, but we've started only now. Yes, it's a slow start for us. We don't quite understand what AI is, right, Evgeny Vladimirovich? And you're familiar with Evgeny Yurievich since 1990. No, we've met for the first time today. Oh, I see. This is even more interesting. So what's the outlook for AI? Weak, strong, machine learning. How do you see it? And I would like to once again talk about digital sovereignty, ask you about it. I know that you say that we need it, but Andrei Yurievich, who you just met today, he says we don't need the sovereignty. These are two questions at once. Yes. Well, AI. Truly, this technology is not quite popular. And talking about biological biological intellect and artificial intelligence, the gap between them is maybe 1,000 years. What we call AI today, technically, is just a machine learning tool, neuronal networks. Yes, they can solve, but they can only solve much more primitive tasks than the biological intelligence. For example, face recognition, they say it's AI, but still, an intellect should tell the difference between the face of a human being and a horse or a dog, but a machine cannot do that. So the true intellect, unlike artificial, can work on objectives it is not programmed for, and it has motivation. The real intellect. And programs, they do not have motivation. That's why it's not an intellect, it's just machine learning and neuronal networks. Do we use them? Have we used them for a long time? And in different areas. For example, when I was talking that we gather 1 million files every day and many thousands of them are malware, this is done by machine learning tools. So people are not capable to fulfill this scope of work. And unfortunately, cyber criminals, most professional ones, they also use machine learning tools in order to be more efficient when browsing the networks. But again, it's another big topic, and we're not at the conference on cybersecurity, so I'm not talking. I will skip the technical details. Talking about digital sovereignty, let's not mix sovereignty and isolation. I categorically do not believe that the modern world can be built with internet barriers. You cannot cut territories. You cannot divide territories into some fragmented parts. This is simply not possible. Take financial services, for example. Well, you cannot just cut them into parts because it will result in a collapse of global economy. But at the same time, digits become more and more important, or numbers become more and more important for the governments. Industrial numbers, for example, telemetry, state services. And when we talk about digital sovereignty, how I see it is that the digital, what's been created digitally in the country stays in the country. Critically important technologies, they are localized so that the country could maintain them whatever the situation. And of course, the people who know how to maintain that. So the country should be self-sufficient in order to be able to store the critical digital data and to be able to develop critical digital systems. And as far as my experience of communication goes, the experience of communication with our representatives of state level in other countries, those countries who can afford that, they are building such plans, and they've been doing it for quite a long time. Once again, digital sovereignty is not about dividing the network into isolated and independent sections. We're talking about localizing the digital and the technologies on your territory in the country or in the region.
Thank you. Thanks. Yes, you're welcome. Just that I cannot see a more professional IT expert on the panel. Even deputy. Oh, you have deputy minister, huh? Let me say a more popular IT professional. I just wanted to throw a gauntlet to Mr. Kaspersky. So, let's have a look at what you have done. You actually changed the structure of online trade over the world. So some people are saying, wait, and in 10 years, all those huge grocery stores and supermarket will not be needed any longer. After that, now we have clouds, transnational clouds. So everything is collapsed. Everything has collapsed or transformed and took a different shape. Is it fence or not? I mean, try going online and try doing e-commerce when there are such huge players in the market already. So what should we do with the businessmen who invested in big supermarkets? Because I know what it's like. So The world has changed quite a lot. It's not the first time or the last time. It will keep on changing, and other players, smart and more technologically developed, will come to replace them. So please don't pine over what has passed. We used to have to wear hats, let's say, or gloves, but we will survive without big supermarkets. Please don't blame the digital for all big changes. I'm pretty sure that retail was mostly harmed by the coronavirus. So I'm throwing the gauntlet back at you. Yeah, I'm picking it up. So after all, we are talking about people's lives and jobs. So how can we forecast that, or should maybe the government or the business should set an objective, and then you can do it your own way. We are living in such a quickly changing world that's developing at such a rapid pace that, let me say a smart phrase that I once heard during a speech. It's the first time we are living in an era when many professions stop being relevant, stop existing over a lifespan of a single generation. So people have to retrain and learn other professions, learn different jobs. I suppose that's true. And the most vivid example of how quickly things are changing over the world is probably financial services. For quite a long time, people were using golden coins for thousands of years. Then for hundreds of years, they were using paper notes. Then plastic cards emerged in our generation's lifetime. And then in a few decades, the digital services and all those cryptocurrencies emerged. Technologies are changing the world faster and faster and faster. So don't be afraid that many professions are going to grow obsolete. Yes, there will be the problem of unemployment, or rather, and there will be a task of retraining people who lost their jobs through no fault of theirs. But just don't try to slow down the development of the civilization for the sake of jobs. I do not support that. We should better teach people new jobs. And speaking about IT security classes, we can do that, actually. We have such programs on offer. Thanks. And yes, I understand everything that he said, but that's how Karl Marx's theory of money collapsed. If you can remember the 5 functions of money as a treasure, well, I'm not sure whether a QR code can be a treasure. Well, anyway, thanks a lot. Thank you. So we are finishing the plenary session of the opening of the 12th Internationality Forum almost with a scandal. Well, thank you, gentlemen, for using the conventional means of conversation. So lifelong learning is becoming prevalent. You'll have to retrain maybe every 3 or 4 or 5 years, and that's the new real. We cannot do anything about it. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you have anything to add to what we were saying, it's high time you do that. If you have any more gauntlets you would like to throw at your opponents, and so that your opponents could fence them off, please do it now. If not, we are now going to have a formal ceremony of signing a cooperation agreement. Thank you. Dear forum participants, we begin the ceremony of signing agreements. A cooperation agreement between the government of the Khanty-Mansiysk Autonomous Okrug Yugra and the Analytical Center of the Government of the Russian Federation on developing transport infrastructure of the Khanty-Mansiysk Autonomous Okrug Yugra. The agreement is signed by Natalia Komarova, governor of the Khanty-Mansiysk Autonomous Okrug Yugra, and Konstantin Kalinin, head of Analytical Center of the Government of the Russian Federation. The purpose of the signed agreement is interaction on issues of developing the transport infrastructure in the Autonomous Okrug and implemented digital solutions in transport. The agreement on cooperation between the government of the Khanty-Mansiysk Autonomous Okrug Yugra and Analytical Center of the Government of the Russian Federation. The agreement is being signed by Natalia Komarova, governor of the Khanty-Mansiysk Autonomous Okrug Yugra, and Konstantin Kalinin, head of Analytical Center of the Government of the Russian Federation. The purpose of the signed agreement is implementing digital technologies in the oil and gas industry in the Khanty-Mansiysk Autonomous Okrug Yugra. A cooperation agreement between the government of the Khanty-Mansiysk Autonomous Okrug Yugra and International Union of Non-Governmental Organizations, Eurasian People's Assembly. The agreement is signed by Natalia Komarova, governor of the Khanty-Mansiysk Autonomous Okrug Yugra, and Andrei Belyaninov, Secretary General of the International Union of Non-Governmental Organizations, Eurasian People's Assembly. The purpose of the signed agreement is consolidating business and social relations, establishing business cooperation, and supporting scientific research, technology, and other types of interaction between Eurasian countries and the Khanty-Mansiysk Autonomous Okrug Yugra. Cooperation agreement between the government of the Khanty-Mansiysk Autonomous Okrug Yugra and a public joint stock company, Mobile Telesystems, on digital economy. The agreement is signed by Natalia Komarova, governor of the Khanty-Mansiysk Autonomous Okrug Yugra, and Ruslan Ibragimov, vice president for government relations and public relations at MTS. The purpose of the signed agreement is cooperation aimed at developing the digital economy in the Khanty-Mansiysk Autonomous Okrug Yugra in terms of creating and developing technology solutions and implementing informatization actions to establish sustainable and good conditions for prosperity and well-being of the population of the Autonomous Okrug. We are moving on to signing agreements online. Agreement between the government of the Khanty-Mansiysk Autonomous Okrug Yugra and a federal state budgetary institution of culture, State Russian Museum. The agreement is signed by Natalia Komarova, governor of the Khanty-Mansiysk Autonomous Okrug Yugra, and Vladimir Gusev, Director General of Federal State Budgetary Institution of Culture, the National Russian Museum. The purpose of the signed agreement is cooperation on organizing and ensuring activity within the Russian Museum, a virtual online branch at State Museum of Art in the Khanty-Mansiysk Autonomous Okrug Yugra. Dear forum participants, the ceremony of signing agreements is over. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for the interesting conversation. I wish forum participants to have fruitful work. Thanks a lot.